Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. And today I'm going to be talking about the Monday risk for severe thunderstorms across the Ohio Valley. We can see the outlined area here from Evansville, Indiana, all the way to DC and Baltimore. And there is a little slight risk, Cincinnati, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Charleston, Huntington, West Virginia, Lexington, um, all in that area under the highlighted zone of the slight risk, which is the level 2 out of 5 risk. And then we see here probabilities of a severe storm, um, where that slight risk was 15%, and then the marginal risk 5%. So let's look at the models here. Let's look at the upper air models first, and then I'm gonna look at the dew points. And then I think we're gonna see what type of event this is fairly quick. And I think uh, I think we'll get a good idea here, especially within the next day or so, of more of the details coming out to iron out any sort of uncertainties that could be with the system. So this right here is the GFS model, and this is last night's run, early in the morning. So this is about 7 a.m. Saturday, about a few hours after um, recording this video. And we can see a very nice, impressive, deep trough here across our eastern coast here, and that's bringing in some pretty cool temperatures in the Carolinas, northeast, where even some snow is falling, some accumulating snow. We see a nice, pretty dense ridge here across the mid sections of our country. But if we look in our Pacific Northwest, we see a small sort of a small trough here associated with a shortwave. And this is going to be our focus for Monday. This is our system here, kind of where my cursor is. And as we go on throughout the day, you can kind of sort of see this advance eastward. This is Sunday morning now. Um, we can see that trough move eastward. We can see the ridge here, um, the Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas region, and we can see that the shortwave continuing to move eastward. Oh, sorry. So as this moves eastward here, it's going to strengthen quite a bit, and we can actually see our closed sort of a closed low um, North Dakota South Dakota border here with the with an enhanced jet streak right below the base of this trough here. This is going to play a pretty crucial role in the setup. So as we move on, this is Monday morning, so this is the day of the event, and we can see a nice increased jet streak here, but we can also see the winds building. The ridge has essentially, if we look at the ridge here, this is going to be Sunday night here, or Saturday evening, sorry. And the ridge is pretty well defined, and by Sunday morning, you can still see it, and then by Sunday night, it's very weak. It's a very broad ridge here, and it's not strong. This short wave has pushed that more further south, and the short wave is gaining strength as it moves eastward. And then by Monday evening, our main risk by Monday afternoon, Monday evening, our main risk is going to be, Columbus, Cincinnati, Lexington, Charleston, West Virginia, in this sort of region, and we're seeing our 500 millibar winds 70 knots to 80 knots across this region. That is fairly impressive. That is certainly pretty strong winds aloft. Um, and we can see our closed low sort of north of Michigan here. It's a very north tracking low here. Um, that ridge is going to sort of help it track more north here. And then as we move on, we can see it really intensify once it goes off the coast there. But that is going to be our problem maker there. This little shortwave. Let's see what the European says here. All right, here's the European here. So this is this morning. It still shows that nice trough, that deep trough that has that nice ridge there in the central plains. And then we can see our little trough here in the Pacific Northwest, where that shortwave is associated with. And as we move on throughout the day, we can kind of see how this advances out here. Um, Here's by Monday morning, or yeah, by Monday morning here, we can see that close low, Minnesota, Wisconsin region. We can see our jet streak of around 80, 90 knots. That ridge has completely sort of been pushed out of the equation now, and this is by Monday evening here. Again, in our risk area, we have a nice zone of 70 to 80 knots. So um, both models in agreement of 70 around 70 to 80 knots in our upper atmosphere here, and that's going to be sustainable enough, well over enough to potentially cause some issues. Well, let's look at our moisture. Look at our moisture here. This is the GFS here. If I can get it to work, there we go. So this is the GFS. So this is going to be, this is this afternoon. This is Sunday morning, and as we see it, like as this shortwave sort of moves into the plains, it's going to start drawing in some of this warm, moist air across the Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri region that's already in place, as we see, sort of already in place in the plains here um, throughout today, Saturday, and then tomorrow it's still in place. And as that shortwave sort of moves across, it's going to start drawing in some more moisture. However, I don't think it's going to have enough time, and I think it's way too far north to actually draw in a sufficient amount of moisture. Um, so by, this is Monday morning here, we have mid 50s really across most of the area. We have a little pocket of low 60 dew points, which in severe weather events, you really want your dew points low 60s at least. Um, so by Monday afternoon, not much of a warm sector. GFS is definitely not showing much of a warm sector at all. We have a little sort of strip of 60-degree dew points. Um, and as we advance through the day, it really thins out. Here's Monday afternoon, like evening, around 3 to 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And again, just low 60s across a very thin area. So if this trend continues and, there is maybe a little, very thin warm sector of low 60 dew points, we could have maybe some increased severe risks, but we don't just know yet. Let's look at the European model. Let's see what it's showing here. So again, this is today, Saturday. We can see that warm air kind of sort of just slowly building in, and as that shortwave finally moves eastward across the northern plains, it's going to start drawing in that moisture a little bit better. So this is Monday morning. Again, no, this is a horrible warm sector. Um, Dew points don't look good. The warm sector looks very just unorganized. By Monday afternoon, okay, we're starting to get this little sort of thin enhanced part of the swarm sector, but nothing crazy by Monday night, Monday evening here. We have maybe some low 60s across the Ohio Valley. Not impressive at all. That's not enough. That little thin little slice isn't enough for me to be like, yeah, that's going to be enough moisture, um, instability um, for the setup. That's just not the case. And speaking of instability, let's look at that here. This is GFS. I'm just going to quickly show this here. So this is Sunday afternoon here, and we're going to slowly go. So by Monday early afternoon into mid afternoon, we'll see a little small sort of thin sector of increased CAPE, and I say increased as in 750 joules per kilogram up to 1200 joules per kilogram. And just per this model, I mean, this is just one model run. We can see maybe a max in CAPE across northern Kentucky, central West Virginia, maybe. But I think just as of right now, we can see our best CAPE across this sort of region here. North or southern Ohio, southern Indiana, much of Kentucky, much of West Virginia, northern Tennessee. Although the risk doesn't really go that far, doesn't really necessarily go that far south, but you can see that instability. It's there. It's nothing impressive at all. In fact, not really even in the slightest. But um, so this tells me this is going to be a high wind shear, low instability event, and more often than not, these events have more of a damaging wind threat, especially with especially with these upper air winds here, where where they'll get to 70 to 80 knots across the Ohio Valley here. And the Euro again 70, 80 knots. I think that's going to set up the region for more of a damaging wind threat. However, let's I don't normally like using um what am I doing here? I don't like using the soundings off of the GFS too much. But I do want to see if I can get a few soundings here. This is what the simulated like radar would look like too. May as well show this. So this is Monday. This is early Monday morning here. Um, this is Monday afternoon, and we see our low pressure. Northern Wisconsin entering the Great Lakes, northern Great Lakes regions here. And we could see that kind of sort of line of storms across western Ohio, eastern Indiana, and then western Kentucky. As we move on in the evening there, we can see southern Pennsylvania through central West Virginia. But let's take a sounding here. Let's we'll take it around the Huntington, West Virginia region. All right. So this is a sounding from the Huntington, West Virginia region, and right off the bat, we have we have some again. Look at our cape here, our white line. There's our white dashed line in between our temperature, solid red line here. This space in between these two is what we refer as instability. So what this shows me is we have really bad surface instability here. Our 3 cape is at 20. Um, not great at all. But as we get into the mid layer, it starts to fatten up some. So our mid layer cape is it's okay, it's solid. This shows just above 1,000 joules per kilogram cape. Our photograph here, you know, it's not very impressive here. In fact, I think we can kind of really see the sheer implications of this from our photograph. But however, we do see a sort of a right turn as we go from the surface to the 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer range. We do have sort of a right clockwise turn there to indicate some turning in our atmosphere. We can see our winds right here as they turn left clockwise. They don't really turn too much, so um, this doesn't necessarily scream tornado threat out for me. However, I do think if I think there could be a brief spin up or two, possibly in the embedded clusters of storms we'll see, or even as soon as they form and intensify. However, I think once they go into a cluster form, which I think they will, the tornado threat will diminish greatly. Another thing I want to point out is the lapse rates here. If I can, it's it's not letting me zoom in, but our lapse rates are around this, high 6 degrees Celsius to a mid 7 degrees Celsius range. Lapse rates are decent; they're pretty good. Possible hail for some of these storms is definitely not out of the question. Um, Not out of the question at all for some potential large hail up to quarter size, especially in the stronger storms where the tornado threat is greatest. Um, wouldn't be shocked to see some potential large hail, but I think this is mostly a damaging wind threat. I think your tornado threat is going to be more towards Cincinnati, Columbus, Lexington. I think that's your main tornado threat, and then it turns into more of a wind threat. Pittsburgh, Charleston, Huntington, like Parkersburg, West Virginia, Youngstown, Ohio, up through there, more of a wind threat. But we'll see how this plays out. This is still 3 days away here. Um, I should have an updated video, more likely tomorrow as more data comes in. Um, but yeah, this is definitely an interesting setup. High shear, low cape event. Usually these produce damaging winds more often than not, and then you'll get some isolated large hail and an isolated tornado, kind of in the beginning of these events. So, especially in the high valley. So, I'll be keeping an eye on this. But until then, I'll be back with a video shortly.